The climate crisis is putting millions of people at risk. The sea level has risen faster than before in the last several decades and will continue to rise in the future. And the warning has come after data that was released by the World Meteorological Organization. The WMO data has said that global warming has caused ice loss and glacier melts worldwide. It has also caused the thermal expansion of water, the phenomenon by which any object that is subjected to heat expands. The oceans are heating up faster over the past century than since the end of the last glacial transition, which was nearly about 11,000 years ago. Moreover, the United Nations Secretary General Antonio Guterres has also warned of the threat posed by the rising sea levels to hundreds of millions of people who live in low-lying coastal areas and also small island states, as new data has revealed that seas have risen rapidly since the year 1900. He even said that sea level rise threatens a mass exodus of entire populations on a biblical scale.
The consequences of all of these are unthinkable. Low-lying communities and the entire countries could disappear forever. We would witness a mass exodus of entire populations on a biblical scale. And we would see ever fiercer competition for fresh water, land and other resources.
The climate crisis is causing sea levels to rise faster than it has done for nearly about 3,000 years, bringing a torrent of trouble to almost about 1 billion people, from places as far-flung as London to Los Angeles to Bangkok to Buenos Aires to Mumbai. Now, Antonio Guterres has said that some nations may even cease to exist, drowned under the waves. Addressing the United Nations Security Council, the UN chief said that slashing carbon emissions, addressing problems such as poverty that worsen the impact of the rising seas on communities, and developing new international laws to protect those who have been made homeless and even stateless is what is needed. He said that sea level rise is a threat multiplier, which is, by damaging lives and economies and infrastructure, will have dramatic implications for global peace and security. The United Nations Intergovernmental Panel on Climate Change has said that sea levels have risen by nearly about 15 to 25 centimeters between the years 1900 till 2018. If the world were to warm up by just another 2 degrees Celsius in comparison with the pre-industrial era, then those levels could actually rise by as much as 43 centimeters by the year 2100. But if it warms by about 3 or 4 degrees Celsius, then sea levels could rise by as much as 84 centimeters. And experts fear that continued and accelerating sea level rise will encroach on coastal settlements and infrastructure and will commit the low-lying coastal ecosystems to submerge, which would cause the erosion of coastal ecosystems, will worsen the intensity of storm surges and flooding, and this can also lead to contamination of soil and groundwater with salt, further impacting food security. And to give us more insights in terms of the rising sea levels and how this is likely to impact humanity in the next coming few years and decades, we're being joined in by Maggie Rodriguez, who's joining us from Parana in Brazil. Now, Maggie is a science and climate journalist who's joining us on this broadcast. Now, Ms. Rodriguez, thank you very much indeed for joining us on this broadcast. And the question that I want to ask you is, this is a dire warning that has been sounded by the United Nations Secretary General Antonio Guterres, where he has said that at least about 1 billion people could be impacted because of the rising sea levels. Is there something that nations can actually do to reverse this?
Sure. So first of all, thank you for having me here. Good evening to everyone watching this show right now. Yes, there's a lot that can be done. First of all, greenhouse gas emissions can be cut. And we all know that absorption, like the technologies for absorption and burial, so to say, of greenhouse gases is not, they are not developed at a large scale yet. So we cannot count exactly on technological solutions. So the best solution is really to cut emissions as much as possible. And another thing that can be done, but it's not as developed as it should, is climate financing, especially the payment for low-lying countries and poor countries for damage, like the payment for damage, and also the financing for mitigation and adaptation policies, which have been talked about in the last many, COPs,
right.
COP negotiations that we have seen, but have not been in place yet.
Now, at this point, as we speak, leaders around the world, they all agree to the fact that climate change needs to be stopped. They're also putting in legislations. They want to have what are known as these zero carbon economies. But most of the targets are by the year 2050 or by the year 2060. That is when most of the countries are likely to meet these targets. With that being the case, do you think realistically, we can put in place the mechanisms that are needed to actually reverse the process of adding extra carbon into the atmosphere?
Realistically, yes, we can. But I don't know if there's enough political and economical will to do so before a catastrophe. So, we would need much more engagement and much more real, political and economical will to do that.
Right.
Just to give a few numbers, if I may, a report from NASA and other U.S. government agencies just last year, they talked about some numbers of sea level rise until 2050, which is just 3 decades away. So it's not 2100, it's not from here to 2 centuries, it's just 3 decades away. Because sea level rise is not going to happen at the same rate and at the same, with the same complex, how can I say, it's not going to rise the same for all countries.
That's true.
So until 2050, in the Pacific coast, we're going to have from 10 to 20 centimeters rise. But on the Gulf, for example, we're going to see from 35 to 46. So it's almost half a meter of sea level rise if we don't do anything. It's just 3 decades away from now.
Right. That's absolutely well summed up. I think that of course, it remains the crux of this issue. Will the nations actually find the political will to address the problem of climate change? Thank you very much indeed, Ms. Rodriguez, for joining us from Brazil and getting us all those insights there.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
WION is now available in your country. Download the app now and get all the news on the move.